Welcome back to my cave, humans. Now, riddle me ree, old chum. If a game has no flaws, does that make it perfect? No. What do I mean by this little riddle? Well, let me put it this way. The game I am about to review has more noticeable flaws than the game I reviewed last time, but I enjoy this game more. What game is it? I am going to be talking about the Swords of Ditto, Mormo's Curse. This is a top-down adventure role-playing game, similar to Legend of Zelda: A Link to the Past. Now, the first problem I have with this game is going to be pretty obvious when you see the footage. There is this big bleeping watermark in the top corner of the screen. Usually it's on the bottom right, but here it's in the top left, and it's kinda big. But anyhoozle, the plot is that there is this evil witch named Mormo. You are guided by a female dung beetle named Puku, and another flaw I have with this game is that they constantly make toilet humor jokes involving Puku. And you are one of the many holders of the Sword of Ditto, who must vanquish Mormo every century. In order to vanquish her, you must go around fighting enemies, finding legendary toys, and destroying Mormo's anchors. There's usually only 2 of them in each world. But this game is played over multiple eras. Just because you beat Mormo once doesn't mean you beat the game. But more on that later. The gameplay is pretty simple. You get 4 items to use, not that you can see them because of the stupid watermark, mind you. You select them using the D-pad, and you can also swing the sword, and by leveling up, you gain new abilities. You go around the world, you find all these dungeons with all this loot. It's not a very complicated game, and sometimes it's fun just to zone out and play it. The characters and the art style is just adorable and brimming with charm. While not a lot of the characters really have any backstory or anything, I find that I care more about these characters than your standard anime human so. It's just really hard for me to dislike a penguin that bad bleep looking. Every playthrough is pretty short and sweet. You can clear it in a few hours. And there's quite a lot to do and a lot to discover. Lots of secrets and caves to beat. Like I said, it's mindless, but it's pretty fun. As far as playable characters go, you start with a pretty basic looking human character. But once you clear an era, you have the chance to play as other characters if you have their badges. Like this pretty cool eye patch wearing bunny character. And if you prefer, there's also a version without an eye patch. And aside from all your tools and badges and whatnot, you also get stickers. They're kind of like armor. They give you bonuses and buffs and whatnot. They're just one of the many collectibles in the Swords of Ditto. Also, this big chonker here is pretty cool. Have I mentioned how much I like the characters in this game? And I didn't even mention this absolutely adorable octopus deity. He's one of my favorites. And I love how he acts all menacing and powerful when you first meet him. It kind of makes him feel like another bad bleep. Each of the main dungeons have a boss fight at the end. There are toy dungeons and then there are trial dungeons. The toy dungeons have these red and blue switches that help you get around the place, and you fight this mirror image of a past Sword of Ditto. If you beat them, you get a toy that you can use in one of the trial dungeons. The trial dungeon tests your ability with a specific toy, and the trial dungeon bosses tend to be a little more varied. The dungeons depend on what items you get in the toy dungeon. So every playthrough is different in its own way because you get different toys every playthrough. And besides the toy dungeons and the trial dungeons, there are little miniature dungeons you can loot if you wish, but you are not required to do so. I'm not sure what all the different toys are yet, but there's like 4 or 5 at least. There could be more. And let's talk about those locations. Usually you get 2 special locations with every playthrough. There's a swamp, there's an abandoned city, there's a desert, which I've yet to see so far, and there is also this junkyard area. Each of these areas has its own special currency for you to collect. There's a special vendor in those areas that may give you exclusive items depending on what area you get. And honestly, there's just a lot of things in this game that I really do like. And it really does make this game very enjoyable. I heard someone complain about the compact and claustrophobic stage design. It hasn't really been an issue for me personally. There is rarely an instance where you're actually trapped in an area, and in the very few cases where you are, you can just roll out of the way of it. The one problem I do have, those bats are just way too adorable. I hate fighting them. But okay, I do have a real problem. It doesn't bother me that much, but I can see why someone might not be a fan of this decision. This game is kinda artificially long. As I said before, this game takes place over multiple eras. Every time you defeat Mormo, a new era begins. But here's an issue I have. In order to get the true ending, you have to beat Mormo at least 6 times. You have to beat her once, then you get an emblem for the next era, where you have to sacrifice it to Mormohenge, fight some bad guys, and if you beat them, a light shines around the circle where you sacrifice the icon. Unfortunately, if they kill you, then that's one more time you have to beat Mormo. In addition, you'll come across Judgment Day where you have to go and fight Mormo, and if you die in the tower, that's another era you have to go through. In order to beat her for good, you have to sacrifice 5 of those emblems successfully. Then, and only then, can you vanquish Mormo for good. But you know what? I really don't see this as being that big of a problem. A lot of people complained about something like this when it came to Crash Bandicoot 4, It's About Time, but I don't know, I've never completed a Crash Bandicoot game. Well, except for Crash Team Racing. I'm a person who just plays a game until they stop having fun, or they find other games to play instead. And honestly, as long as this game is still fun, I can keep playing this, even if I have to beat the game 6 times. Plus, there's a certain joy every time you beat the game, because you get a new character, and, oh yeah, I didn't even mention this thing. This thing is just awesome. Serendipity, the giant space whale. Every time you beat the game, you get to see her. Why are there so many charming characters in Swords of Ditto? Who cares? But it's one of the things I love about this game. You also get shiny yellow gems when you play through the game, and you can use them to buy extra free guys, or save them for after you beat Mormo so that you can give items and whatnot to the next sword. There's also a certain joy to getting a new character every time. I always wonder, upon going into the next era, what am I gonna pick this time? Maybe another bunny, or maybe this fox dude? Or how about this cute little doggo over here? And just once I get more badges, I'll have more options, and there's just something joyful about it. Even if the game can be a little artificially long. I kinda don't mind it, I really don't. Next episode, I'm gonna deviate from my original plan because there is this game I saw on the PS4 store that's actually front page and Anthro, and to be honest, I haven't read any reviews or watched any reviews on it, and I know very little about it going into it, but to be honest, I don't mind spending money on Anthro games even if they don't turn out to be that good. I just like spending money on them because I want to see more of them. And this is a game I want to give a chance to. Especially since it looks pretty high budget, and I didn't think there'd be another high budget furry game after Biomutant tanked. But this one's only $30, I figured at least worth a shot, and the game is called Forged in Shadow Torch. The game actually released recently, and that's one of the reasons I want to review it next. I'm hoping it'll be good. I'm not getting my hopes up, but who knows, it might surprise me. I mean, a lot of the games I look forward to kind of flop. I'm hoping this game will be an exception. I mean, it's got about 20 so reviews on the PS4 store, ranging from 4 to 5 stars. So, promising. That's actually a pretty good score so far. And, I don't know, we'll see how it is when I review the game. But until then, I'm Baalf, and the cave is closed.